All right. So there was a lot made about Kamala Harris not being fuck. Okay, so there was a big deal made about Kamala Harris not being fact-checked in the debate against Donald Trump the other day. Um, and the reason being is Donald Trump said 50 things that were egregiously false, whereas Kamala was much more tactical in the misleading nature of what she said. And her mistruths or her lies were more semantic than anything. What I mean by that is if you word something a certain way, if you change the phrasing of something, you can argue that it's not necessarily a lie because of the exact wording that you used and the way that you said it. Whereas Trump says, crazy shit like, they're eating the cats and they're eating the dogs and that they are, killing the babies after they're born and just maniacally stupid lies that are inflammatory and that have to be fact checked on the spot. All right. But I want to show you an example of what I mean by sort of this subtle mistruth, semantic, misleading thing that Kamala Harris does. So this is one of the things that people were talking about. Let me play this clip. These are some troops, American troops responding to this statement by Kamala Harris.
And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world. The first time this century. What? But let's understand.
So where the fuck are we right now?
So I don't know. I don't know exactly where those individuals are, but you can assume they're in a not so safe area of the world, armed and fighting somebody. Now, I was equally perturbed or confused by the statement, but the key wording that Kamala Harris was very careful to use was the term of a war zone at the end there. So she said, we have no active military fighting in a war zone. And what I think what she meant to say with that is no actively declared war that the United States is engaged in, like officially, or as like officially declared. Like, do you see how semantic it sort of has to get? When we withdrew from Afghanistan, that was an active war. Like that was a declared war that we were engaged in, that we were fighting in Afghanistan. Since they withdrew from that, they think, again, like semantically, they are able to say we are not actively engaged in a war. We don't have American troops actively engaged in a war zone of that nature. Of course, the reality of the situation is we have troops, goodness gracious, we still have troops all over the world, right? And specifically, like let's take Iraq, for example, where we've been just as long as we were in Afghanistan, meddling, while the US formally ended its combat mission in Iraq in 2021. Some 2,400 troops remain in the country to advise, assist, and enable, right? Again, all of these sort of code words, advise with what, assist with what, enable what, all of these are sort of, probably active, violent, war-like games. Iraqi forces fighting the remnants of ISIS, a campaign that began in 2014. Even if it's not officially a combat mission, these troops still take part in raids targeting ISIS, including just 2 weeks ago, in which 7 Americans were injured. Meanwhile, around 800 troops are still in Syria, mainly assisting local allied armed groups fighting ISIS. So you can argue it's a righteous cause, right? Of counterterrorism, controlling ISIS, fighting ISIS, etc. The problem people have with it is that you can chalk it up to, again, sort of misleading politic talk. It is Orwellian. When the right talks about Orwellian, they have no idea what they're talking about, and they use it in on all kinds of silly ridiculous ways. It is Orwellian to say, yeah, we are the regime that ended all wars and we don't have any US troops active in war zones. Well, is Iraq fighting ISIS internally? Is that a war zone? Yes. Is Syria fighting ISIS, an active war zone? Yes. Do we have 800 troops there? Yes. Do we have 2,400 troops there? Yes. 3,000 troops just between those two, and you can go on. I mean, we have soldiers fighting in places that people don't even know about, countries that Americans have never even heard of. This is stuff that, oh my goodness, that is just going on, between the Pentagon and the so-called, deep state. Not to sort of throw it in that direction, but just the billions and trillions of dollars that goes into defense and purchasing and selling of bullets and arms and sending troops all over and trying to resolve civil wars here and secret covert ops missions there. We absolutely have we have troops, we have active fighting going on in a number of different countries, including Somalia and Lebanon and Pakistan, to name just several of the areas that we are actively engaged with. So that's why people get upset, and they rightfully react the way they do when, again, Kamala goes out and says, no, we don't have any troops. Nobody's in an active war zone. Nobody's in an active war zone that's, actively declared a war zone by the US. And, again, it depends how you interpret it. It just depends what you call it. And then you can sort of get away with a slight lie. So anyway, I don't like it. I don't like that kind of language. I think all of it needs to be reined in. I think we need to reevaluate the entire way that we look at the US as the global, as the world police, and what harm that we've done, the harm that we've caused, rather than sort of the mitigating influence that we propose to be or presumed to be, where in the reality we made things a lot messier in the Middle East over the last 20 years, and we spent trillions of dollars in taxpayer money doing it. uh that's a very important thing to think about and evaluate. So some thoughts on that, on Kamala Harris's weaselly use of language when it comes to war. Not very encouraging, but again, better than the other side, in my opinion. So let me know what your thoughts are on that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.